You said, how can you doubt? I want to pursue that thought because it's very interesting. My understanding is even those with extreme faith do have doubts. It's not that they don't exist, but
Yes, they
they
do.
continue their faith. They keep doing their whatever routine prayers or whatever schedules they have, because that is something which is misunderstood by a lot of people. They think, oh, it's easy for you.
Right.
You don't have the doubts. You have the same doubts. In fact, you have perhaps more, but you accept this is one part of my mind which is doubting. This is one schedule, one discipline, one sense of practice that I picked up. My responsibility towards what I call faith, I'll keep doing it, whatever
Hmm.
the prayer is. Because I know of one or
Hmm.
two people in the era in the realm of faith. They have immense faith, and there are at least 50, 100. It's like a saintly fellow that I happen to know. We are family friends. There are at least 100 odd people who come to him. His own family, I think, besides him and his dad, everybody else is also growing in faith. But these guys have genuine faith. They may be going through the worst times. And there are people who come and told them these things, the same thing that you are being told. People have been kind, they've told you dreamers. They've told them, they come to them for help. And then they give them swear words and go away. That you can't control your own problem, what will you control my problem?
Right.
But uh, I feel that you have a problem and you're not bothered about your own, but you are willing to help others. I think again it comes back to the purity of intent, purity of service, purity of goodness, purity of being. See, things are what they are. None of us can change them. None of
Right.
us is at a position of some great Buddha or like the Peer, and we are not that level Sufi saints or something that we can say we can change things. We cannot. We have to accept. But this acceptance itself gives you a lot of power, isn't it?
Right.
You want to talk about this
Yes, it
acceptance
does.
bit a little in terms of what makes you accept
Uh,
somebody who doesn't believe in this? How do you accept? What do you tell yourself?
no, I didn't get that part. It kind of trailed.
Ah, okay.
Your voice kind of trailed. I think maybe because of the internet.
Yeah. So my question is, I want you to take us through your journey of acceptance. What does it really mean? When there is doubt, what is it that you do that makes acceptance be
Okay,
over?
I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, see, I read a lot about faith, and I read about it a lot. Now, as for my faith, I'm a Muslim. So, we are told that Allah likes it when we ask. You know, He's taking you through a problem. He'll get you out of the problem also. And if you're at sea, don't look at it as if you're going to drown in that storm. Maybe he's teaching you to swim,
Okay.
and maybe he's letting you be in that place for a little longer to see how strongly you believe in him or not.
Okay.
So you keep on, like, Allah has his gates, right? You keep knocking on his door. Keep knocking on his door. He likes it when you ask. He'll answer you at the right time.
Okay.
He'll answer you at the right time. You don't. He may not answer you immediately. It was something that you said
Yeah.
earlier.
Patience.
Yeah. So he's seeing your patience. You have your doubts. Your doubts will come because he's not answering you immediately, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, no one would have doubts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not going to ever answer you at any other time than the right time.
So
So maybe it's not your right time.
okay. So I have a interesting observation to this. For people who are non-believers, I'm trying to decode what you're saying because this to me is also revealing natural processes. So, for example, you stay with the situation.
And yeah, as I said, he likes it when you ask. So please keep on asking, keep on asking, keep on praying. He likes it when you pray. this is what we are taught, that he likes it when you pray. And there is this one very famous quote by Rumi, like it describes God in terms of the beloved and Rumi in terms of the lover, wherein Rumi takes 5 steps forward and the beloved takes all the other steps towards him. The beloved's arms are already extended. It's up to the lover to move towards the beloved.
Okay.
So it means that just go towards him a little and he'll hold on to you. You don't even have to worry about it.
Okay. So does this mean if I were to then use all that you've said in the talk so far, is all the good properties that one has, uh, be it faith, be it humility, be it acceptance of the things as they are, be it hard work, accepting your responsibilities, all of these things, being practical
I
about,
think we've talked about it a lot. So many different things just came out of your one topic, happiness in loneliness.
yeah. So this entire thing that you are taking together
Mm-hmm.
and you stay with it. So your job is to stay with what you've got as long as you can, and then a little more, and then a little more, till your time comes. The time
Right.
will come, or it may not come. That's none of your business. You have to do the right thing. You have to keep on doing the right thing. That is your job as
Right.
either a devotee or a guy who's attempting to win over the beloved in Rumi's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Idea is you keep being nice, keep being good, you keep being having fortitude, resilience, faith, be a good human being. So now one little question that has not been covered, I would want to ask. These are personal properties. These, if they make us good human beings, what is the part of being good to others, or how do we socially interact? Do you have a methodology or something that you internalize so that it makes you the practical use of this goodness? One is to safeguard yourself, obviously. So, uh,
Right.
like one of the things that comes to mind, just to give you an example of what the question is, like you donate 10% of your earnings is a good Muslim um, thought process, if I understand correctly. But that is also true of a lot of other religions.
Right.
So something like that. But this entire journey that you spoke of, where there is a lot of, you use loneliness to prop yourself up and bring about good qualities like resilience and humility and faith and whatever. So how does one contribute to the betterment of the society immediately around us, or at the, do we, and is there any personal experience that you would want to narrate?
Um, I would love to speak about the personal experiences. And I agree that yes, I have tried my level best to help those who are in need, knowing them and understanding that their circumstances are worse than mine. But the fact that I'm Muslim, I don't like to speak about the things that I do.
Which is fine.
Like I really wouldn't like to talk about the people that I have helped or may have helped, or who consider whatever I've done for them help. So it's something that I would not open up about.
Yeah, which is not the question. The question is this goodness of heart that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any, say, your kids or your neighbors or somebody else who you interact with? Have they been inspired by something because of this goodness that has come about? It can't be useless that nobody understands. Only you think you are good. Ye to, that's not fair because there is a lot of work you're putting in. So has it impacted others around you? Do they feel inspired, or do they want to do a little better,
I
or
hope they are inspired. I hope they are inspired. But yeah, I noticed one very sweet thing that my kid did once. We were on the way to her French class, and she saw a beggar, uh, and she said, "Mama, let's not give money, because and she's smart, okay, she's really smart. She's telling me, Mama, I want to give the person something, but I don't want to give him money, because once when I'd given a lady money, the cow, like, we were halted over there for a long time. She was with my parents at that time. She had gone for a holiday with my parents, and she noticed that the lady had gone to a BD shop and bought something from there.
Okay.
So she's like, I'm not going to give money to this beggar because I don't know what he's going to use it on. So I have biscuit packet in my bag. So I'll give that away. So I said, yes, fair enough, fine. So I've seen that rub off. So that, I mean, that's something that I also encourage. It's not only coming through me, but it's also the values that we inculcate in our young ones, you know, like from the beginning, we teach them to share. And it's only food. It's just food, you know, maybe that thing's not really meant for you.
Yeah.
So I mean, someone's in front of you and they're hungry. So how can you bear that? I mean, and especially when you got the capacity to help, I mean, not help, but share what you got. So share it. I mean, it's always good.
Yeah.
There was a Filipino friend I had. He always told me this, that I mean, he used to, whenever we bought food, we used to work together, and whenever he bought food, it was him buying food for all the other Filipinos in the office also. And I said, why do you spend such a lot of your money? You know, I mean, at that time I wasn't this wise also. I was just probably 23 or 24 years old, and I was like, on a daily basis, you buy such a lot of food, and there's a lot of people eating with you. I eat my own food, but I mean, they were all eating those prawns and the things that they used to eat, and I'd be like, why do you do this daily? So he's like, he just told me, Ume, it's only food. It's good to share. I mean, how can I eat and I mean see that the others are not eating? I can't fill my stomach that way. So that's something that really touched me about him, you know, and that's when, like, even when I speak to my children today, you know, like when my children are fighting over a glass of juice or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
because they do. These are very common things between siblings. They'll fight over slices of cake and they'll fight over everything that's there.
Yeah.
I just tell them it's only food, Zara. It's only food, Sophia. You know, you got to share.
Yeah.
Or the next thing you know, you're fighting over it and the thing falls down. It's meant for neither of you. So it's better that you share.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think you covered a lot of ground. I am so glad that we had this conversation.
Me too.
This entire journey of how loneliness can spur us on to think better about ourselves, go through varied things, and different facets of our own personalities can reveal itself. I would want to mention a small thing. I am into meditation. So I had a meditator friend who once said that sometimes you have to work very hard to understand meditation. Uh, like you have to work very hard in the sense because you try and sit for longer hours without moving or without. So he says sometimes just to understand that little bit, you have to do a lot, which is exactly what you kind of said that when
Yes.
the time comes, you're going to get it. But the time comes, you have to make that time come also. You have to keep working towards it because it's the amount of effort you put in, is the amount of love, is the amount of goodness that you gather in
Right.
yourself. And at some point, you're becoming more godlike only. God has all these properties and He has unfathomable part of it. We have little bit, so we got to explore at least the full little bit. We don't even go there. So I think, yeah,
Yes.
a lot of small
Yes.
things to ponder about. I will be glad to share this talk with younger people also because this is such a simple talk compared to what we generally land up doing gets very heavy-handed. So thank you so much for.
Okay.
You covered a lot of ground. I'll see you around.
Thank you so much, Bunty. It was really, really lovely speaking to you. It was an honor, in fact, that as I mentioned earlier also, that I love to meet people who want to be of service to others. Like it amazes me. Like to live your life in that manner, and that's really amazing. And it's something that I would also want to do. I would love to do it. In fact, I'm happy that I'm a teacher because of this reason. I'm making use of my life.
Yes, yes,
So I'm really happy that we did this,
yes.
and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's my pleasure and honor. You are my 100th video guest, so I feel even more happier that
Thank you.
knowing you now. So I shall see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye, Bunty. Thank you so much.